Why are tech's two biggest giants, Facebook and Apple, brawling? That's the subject of today's edition of Inside AB. I'm Jeremy Lawrence and I'm joined here in the studio by Shayan Shakeel. Shay, let's recap first. Mark Zuckerberg was in front of Congress last week. What did he have to say?
He tried to have a lot to say, 10 hours, so over 2 days.
Wow.
So a lot of grilling from the senators who, it has to be mentioned, weren't quite sure how Facebook worked, but had a lot of concerns about privacy. So Mark Zuckerberg tried his best, and now he has a lot of homework because, as he'd mentioned in the testimony, I'll have my team get back to you about that.
Okay. So what does this have to do with Apple?
When he went on one of the breaks, one of the AP photographers managed to notice that his binder was left open on the table, and he took a picture of that. And within those notes was how he was prepared, if asked, to, just go after Apple and Tim Cook, because in the notes what was mentioned was lots of stories about apps misusing Apple data, never seen Apple notify people, and then the second point was important that you hold everyone to the same standard. So he's obviously not pleased that Facebook is the only one being singled out for this data breach that was a result of Cambridge Analytica's harvesting.
Okay, so why in particular Apple?
Well, to be fair, he's not going after Apple as a defense. Tim Cook started this spat. He went and spoke with MSNBC and Recode a few weeks ago and said that when asked what he thought of the situation that Facebook finds itself in, said, I wouldn't be in this situation. In fact, he said Apple could make a lot more money if it chose to monetize its customers, but we have elected not to. And that didn't sit well with Facebook, of course.
Right. So Apple, what is its stance on security?
Well, Apple's had a pretty strong stance on security, to be fair. Very famously, in 2016, the FBI asked Apple to create a backdoor within locked iPhones so that it could enter and figure out, whatever the FBI needed to. And Tim Cook and Apple said no. So Apple has had quite a history of protecting user data privacy in the past, and it's something that it sticks by. What a lot of analysts and investors are now beginning to see, though, or say, is that this is a sales pitch for Apple. It's a lot of companies are abandoning the Apple Watch device platform, if you will, such as Instagram and Google Maps, because they say people don't use them on the watch. iPhone sales are declining, and a lot of its competitors who don't share that level of self-righteous security ideology are beating it on the market and taking share away from Apple. So that's what a lot of people are criticizing Apple for. They're saying that all this talk about security is maybe a sales pitch for Apple because it's not at the bleeding edge of innovation anymore. Okay.
So Zuckerberg, let's talk a bit more about him.
Well, that's, when Tim Cook said all this, he left himself open to kind of a tirade from Mark Zuckerberg. In an interview with Vox a few weeks ago, he said that Cook's comments with MSNBC and Recode were extremely glib. And to quote, he said, I think it's important that we don't all get Stockholm syndrome and let the companies that work hard to charge you more convince you that they actually care more about you. That's ridiculous to me.
Wow.
So, and as his binder was left open in the Senate, he was prepared to go even further than that.
Okay. In all this, who's winning and who's losing?
Well, it doesn't look like we're winning. We're buying expensive phones and aren't sure whether our privacy is being protected.
Right.
So, it's that Orwellian criticism that you're quite familiar with. If you aren't paying for the product, you are the product.
Okay, well, that's a good way to end today's edition Inside AB. Please do subscribe to our channels, do comment and share, and we'll see you next time. Bye.